Okay, I'm going to go through this and just kind of use this to kind of help you to explain the basics of hypothesis testing. Then we'll go through and we'll do some where we're actually doing it and using StatCrunch. So let's preview this. This is just the basics of setting up your hypothesis and whether you accept or you reject, or you not really accept, but you reject or you fail to reject. According to the CDC, the average weight of men in 1990 was 181 pounds. Consider a claim that the average weight of men increased by 2014. Increase is a key word. The null hypothesis is going to be equal. The mean, we want it to be greater than 181. If you reject the null hypothesis, then your conclusion, if you reject it, then there is sufficient evidence. If you fail to reject, there would not be sufficient evidence. Okay, for the hypothesis test, alpha is 0.05. That's your significance level. And your p-value is 0.089. If p is less than alpha, you reject. P here is greater than alpha, so you fail to reject. When you fail to reject, there is not sufficient evidence. Okay, here's another one, very similar, same situation, just different values. So let's see what happens. Your significance value, your alpha is 0.05, your p-value is 0.03. If p is less than alpha, you reject. If it's not, you fail to reject. P is less than, put a 0 out there if you need to. That's like comparing 50 and 33. 33 is less than 50. So if P is less, you reject. Anytime you reject, there is sufficient evidence. For a hypothesis test, alpha equals 0.05. The computed p-value is equal to 0.089. Okay, compare alpha and p. P less than alpha? No. P here is not less than alpha, so you would fail to reject, and there is not sufficient evidence. All right. According to the Center for Disease Control, about 20% of young American people between the ages of 12 and 19 are obese. A student claims that students at his local schools are in better shape than the national average, so their proportion of obesity is less than 20%. We're not talking about a mean here. This is a proportion, so you'll be dealing with the p-value instead of the mean. Okay, your null should always be equal. And since he's trying to test less than, we want to use the less than. So this would be the situation. The null is equal to and then less than. Suppose the results of the statistical is to fail to reject. If he fails to reject, what is it? There is not sufficient evidence. Okay. Now, those were just the basics. I wanted you to be sure you understood setup and whether you reject or you fail to reject, whether there's sufficient evidence or not. If P is less than alpha, you reject, and there is. If P is not less than, or in other words is greater than or equal to, then you fail to reject, and it is not.